Hi everybody, this is Don Woolley. We're the Sahuarita Tea Party, talking to you from beautiful Sahuarita, Arizona. We are just about 15 miles south of Tucson, and we're going to bring you a little news tonight. We're going to talk about election integrity and give you some information about that. We'll take a break about 5:30, and then we'll get into some more border news, updated news about the border. I know it's hard for everyone to keep on top of everything that's going on, so we hope you get your information from us, and that would be our wish. And I want to let you know about next week. Next week, we will be on Wednesday next week, and we're going to be on earlier in the day because we're going to have Dr. Laura Presley on again, and she believes that the audio from her area will be better in a different time frame. So we're going to try to talk to her at 1 o'clock Texas time, and she thinks there's a bandwidth difference between that time of the day and later at night, 7 o'clock. So we're going to try to talk to her and hope that we're successful and have better audio. So Arizona time, that's 11 o'clock next Wednesday, 11 a.m. So we'll be on earlier, but if you like the show at 5 o'clock on Wednesday or Thursday, once it gets recorded, you'll be able to go watch it when you want to. So if you don't catch it live, if you're busy doing something, you can watch it Wednesday or Thursday or any day you want, really, at 5 o'clock. Dr. Presley is a a real fighter for election integrity. She calls it election fraud. That she doesn't like to use the term voter fraud, and that has to do with the process of voting, etc. So, and that's why we're going to give you a little preview tonight. Talk to you about election integrity in Arizona and some things that we need to do here that we can help. We can help in this state, and excuse me. One thing we need to do in the legislature is absolutely we need to get a bill going in the legislature, and we are working on that. We're going to send a draft bill to a couple of our representatives and a couple of our senators in the state of Arizona to them, and hope that we can get it started. And it's going to be a very simple bill. It's going to require by law that the ballots in Arizona be sequentially numbered. If you haven't heard that information before, we do not number our ballots in Arizona, and that to me is hard to believe. It was written into the state constitution in Texas, which is really, to me, amazing, and they also put it in their Texas statute. So we need to write it into our Arizona state statutes, and hopefully we can get that done this next session before the 2020 election. Dr. Presley believes, and she calls it the holy grail of election fraud, when you do not number the ballots. And she took her case to the Texas Supreme Court, and that was one of the points she made, was that the voting machine company ignored that law in Texas when they handled her city election in Austin, Texas, a few years ago. So let's get into election integrity, which is really cleaning up the process and allowing a clean, lawful election where we nullify any of the attempts to change the results of an election through nefarious actions. So election integrity, there's actually a group that started in California. It's an election integrity organization, And I'm going to put up a website for you right now. And this website is it allows you to when you look at it, you'll see some information on it, and it will allow you to, if you're interested in election integrity and helping these folks, you can go. You can volunteer to help them, and there's different things, different tasks that you can do. So we'll start out with this chart right here, and let's see if I can actually make it a little bigger. Move me over here a little bit. So there we go. So Election Integrity Project of Arizona LLC is a 501c3, and these folks, they came from California. They are putting together this effort in Arizona and also in Nevada right now. But this is something that really needs to go on across the country. So you can see the website address right up here is Election Integrity, EIPAZ.org. EIPAZ.org is the website to the Arizona Election Integrity Project. Every lawfully cast vote accurately counted, and that's their message right there. So you can see here they have a home page, they have a news page, they tell you about EIPAZ, they let you join the team. Education is training, etc., that they will give to people, show you how to contact them. And of course they're a 501c3, so they do take donations, and it tells you what their resources are. And the next slide is there. If you go into join the team, it talks about volunteering, and it says the Election Integrity Project Arizona LLC, EIPAZ, is actively building teams at the regional, county, and community levels throughout Arizona. Join us in our effort to protect our most fundamental right, excuse me, to have fair and honest elections. You can become a part of this critical, nonpartisan grassroots movement. Simply complete the information below to begin the process. So it says, we will contact you with more detailed information about the options you select once we receive your information. Please select all volunteer options you are interested in. So some of the things they have listed is, I would like to volunteer on a coordination team, a regional team coordinator, a regional team assistant coordinator, regional team trainer, county team coordinator, county team assistant coordinator, county team trainer, community team coordinator, community team assistant coordinator, community team trainer. And then it has, I would like to help start a team in my county or community. I am willing to set up an informational meeting with a group in my area. I would like to become an election observations volunteer, and we really need people to volunteer for elections in 2020 and get people in there watching the process. But you know, in order to watch the process that's going on, you have to familiarize yourself with the Arizona statutes, and that's something that's kind of lacking right now. Is people aren't given a lot of direction on Arizona statutes and what the law actually requires. So that's something that they're trying to firm up too. Says I would like to work on data analysis team. I would like to work on a research team, and I would like more information. So that kind of gives you a picture of what they're looking for. And I know we've had people ask us at the Republican Club meetings and other places about how to. About election fraud, voter fraud, what's everybody doing? Well, this is your chance to get involved if you're interested in doing that. You may not volunteer for anything else, but this is really important stuff. So we urge you to contact them, and we hope you will. And I'll leave this up here for a little bit so everybody can get the information. Again, it's EI, Election Integrity, PAZ.org. Election Integrity Project, Arizona. That's what the initials stand for, .org. So that's a good step. Now, we're going to be working on some other things that we want to do as far as election integrity goes, and one of these is getting a bill to some of our House of Arizona representatives. We're looking at maybe Kelly Townsend and Gail Griffin, who are both in the House, and then we need some allies in the Senate, in the Arizona Senate. And I was told today maybe David Farnsworth and another person who I know has already worked hard on election fraud is Michelle Ugente Rita. She already got 3 bills passed in the last session, which I told everybody about. So that would be good too. Contact them. We'll get this information to them. We'll get our template for our bill to them and see if we can't make some headway and get a sponsor and get it in committee and get it out of committee and get it on the floor of the House and the Senate and get it passed. Wouldn't it be nice to go to the polls or get your mail-in ballots next year and find out that they're actually sequentially numbered? And that would be great. And I think that would really put a damper on ballot harvesting as we know it. Other information I can give you is they just finished a study about election integrity in Pima County, and it wasn't good and did not reflect well on Pima County elections. And I did notice in the past couple weeks that Ann Rodriguez, who is the elections division, she's head of it. She's been there 20 years, but she's not going to run in 2020, which is kind of interesting. Maybe she wanted to retire at that time all along, but we'll never know. They're going to dig into some of these problems they found out. And we know that she encouraged the counting of any ballots that were dropped on their doorstep, which were probably involved. People were involved with ballot harvesting and that kind of thing. She's one of those count every vote folks, and that's okay. We want to get every vote counted too, but we don't want illegal or we don't want those. We don't want those cast. We don't want votes that shouldn't be counted. If you're a legitimate voter, citizen of the United States, citizen of Arizona, vote in this state. They just charged a guy up in Tucson for voting in 2 states after he swore that he only voted in 1 state. So, they ask you if you voted in another state, and when you answer that question, you're already in trouble. So, but we need to do more of that in this state. That should be the norm rather than the exception. So, let's get going on this stuff. So I think that's about a wrap on election integrity. I wanted to get you that information initially. Again, it's Election Integrity Project, EIP, AZArizona.org. Go there and see if you would like to help these folks in Arizona. They could really use it in every county. Particularly in Pima County, Santa Cruz County, our local counties, and over in Cochise County too. So that's kind of a wrap on election integrity. We're going to shift gears now and get into the border and what's new on the border, what's going on down there, some things that I just heard about that our retired Border Patrol friend Zach Taylor told us about. Zach is the chairman of the NAFBPO, and we've had him on this YouTube live stream before, and we're going to get him back pretty soon, sometime in October. But anyway, I saw where President Trump he went to New Mexico and had a big rally, and a local person was able to travel over and help with security at that rally. Did not get inside, but helped with security outside, and has some interesting stories to tell. We had a local MAGA meeting last night at the local Pizza Hut, and he talked about that and the crowd and the security and etc. So it was pretty interesting. Took a few pictures on the outside, but anyway, it was also President Trump went to California from New Mexico to a big fundraiser. I know I saw him meet at the airport with Harmeet Dillon, who is Harmeet is she is on Lou Dobbs quite a bit, talking about the Republicans and the RNC, etc. So she's involved with the Republicans out in California. But she met Trump at the airport. She tweeted about it, said it was the honor of her life, which I'm sure it was. And anyway, he had a big fundraiser in California, and then sometime he went during the day or later in the day, he went down to or maybe before the fundraiser, it might have been an evening thing, but he went down to the border, California-Mexican border, and had a walk around with some of the Border Patrol agents down there, etc. So, and I put that video up on, it is up on the Republican Club of Green Valley Sahuarita website if you'd like to watch it. It's repclubgvs.org, repclubgvs.org. It's a pretty good little video, and it was on YouTube. So we captured that. We also captured the rally, which was on YouTube, and we put that up on the Republican Club of Green Valley Sahuarita website too. So we were happy to do that. And I'm working as their webmaster, so and that works out pretty good. I mean, I don't charge them anything, and I think they got a pretty good website now. So haven't had any complaints. So other things going on the border, and I'll get to this other presentation. There's some changes made down on the border that I don't know if everybody heard about. This was pretty interesting stuff, and I know everybody probably heard about the Supreme Court ruling on asylum, that if you're coming from Central America seeking asylum in the United States, coming through Mexico, you cannot claim asylum when you get here. Excuse me, and that's pretty much per international law. So that's part of the change. But this is something else that I want to. I'm going to throw it up here now and show it to you folks. It's very, very good news, actually. So I'll put this up so everybody can read it here. And so it turns out that while we've all been sleeping, I guess is the term. This is something that Zach Taylor's been proposing to him, to get this situation under control at the border for some time, but it's beginning to happen now. So what they've done is they've started tent courts, and these tent courts are set up at the border towns to ease the strain on immigration cases. So here's Zach, what he wrote me about this, and he said, almost there. We just need to move the asylum officer and the immigration judge to the tents. plural, on the border, videotape all hearings and orders. Good for returning deportees and criminal aliens also, but the U.S. Marshals get them for a little vacation, perhaps a visit to a federal magistrate. Then lead those that are removed, out the back and onto a U.S. military-marked aircraft for their repatriation to their home country. Enforcing current immigration law works, and these are things that can be done under our current laws, and things that have been neglected and people haven't wanted to do, and people that have, they've bucked President Trump in doing some of these things. The Secretary of Homeland Security, Temporary Secretary McAleenan, we're urging President Trump to fire McAleenan. He's resisting him in almost every turn, and he's an Obama appointee, but beyond that, he's not in the president's court, and he's also resisting, when people are born in this country to illegal parents. That's something that McAleenan is resistant changing, and it seems to me you could just follow the Constitution and you'd be right about that. These people have no allegiance. They have no allegiance to the United States, and therefore this birthright citizenship is bogus. So anyway, I'm going to go on with this, some more of this information. So the Trump administration has quietly started implementing its latest measure aimed at easing the strain of immigration courts tasked with a growing backlog of asylum cases at the southern border. A new tent court or soft-sided facility began operating this week in Laredo, Texas, to help handle the tens of thousands of cases of asylum seekers that were part of the so-called Remain in Mexico program. Others are expected to open soon in Brownsville, in the Rio Grande Valley, the busiest corridor for illegal crossings, and in Yuma, Arizona. So that's why Zach mentioned plural, because they need to do this along the entire border, and let's get going with it. Of course, you have to have the people too, but the hearings at these tent courts are held entirely by video conference, as was the case Thursday morning of a woman. I give an example: a migrant from Cuba named Lorena, who had been bused from Mexico to the temporary court in Laredo. The judge on her case was 160 miles northeast in a courtroom in downtown San Antonio, and this was reported by the New York Times. This is kind of a excuse me. This is a picture of that facility in Laredo, located a short distance from the Rio Grande, called the Migrant Protection Protocol. Immigration hearing facilities in Laredo, Texas, are adjacent to the gateway to the Americas International Bridge, and a picture was taken by the Laredo Morning Times. Anyway, I don't know immigration hearing, migrant protection, whatever they use. Honestly, these are illegal aliens that are crossing the border illegal and then claiming asylum, bringing these children with them. So we need to kind of tell it like it is. They're not coming through the ports of entry, because that's where you can declare asylum, when you come through a port of entry. It's not you don't cross the border illegally and then do it. So anyway, the border apprehensions are plunging as Trump administration hails Mexico Pact. So the Remain program, which the U.S. ramped up this summer with Mexico's cooperation, has been credited by American officials with a significant reduction of the number of migrant apprehensions at the southern border, a key goal of President Trump. And everybody knows asylum claims have spiked since 2010, and there is currently a backlog of more than 800,000 cases pending in immigration court. Most asylum claims often fail to meet the legal standard after they are reviewed by asylum judges. Now, this says only about 20% of applicants are approved. I think it's less than that. I think it's I've heard that 91, 92% are rejected, so that would be 8% are approved or less. So, the new tents were built near international bridges in the 2 Texas towns on the property of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. They have a walkway from each bridge that eventually leads to the courtrooms with video conferencing equipment. And then here's the news about the asylum ruling in the Supreme Court. Supreme Court allows Trump asylum restrictions to take effect, ending the Ninth Circuit injunctions. While judges hold the hearings remotely, U.S. officials said, and this goes on with a story about the border tents. While judges hold the hearings remotely, U.S. officials said if attorneys have formally agreed to represent migrants, they will be allowed to attend hearings in person. However, outside attorneys who routinely observe immigration proceedings and will not be allowed at the hearings. Media outlets will not be allowed into the tents without permission either. Under U.S. Department of Justice rules, immigration court hearings are generally open to the public through immigration judges, though immigration judges can close some hearings for privacy reasons or to protect the public interest. One official said the government might allow potential observers to submit applications as we move forward. So, what they want to do is they want to get these people through and take them care of very quickly and not have a lot of bureaucratic mumbo jumbo by some other attorney to prevent that. So here's another picture of the outside. This is a view shows U.S. Customs and Border Protection tent facilities where immigration hearings are held by video teleconference in Brownsville, Texas, September 12, 2019. So this is real-time stuff. As a picture from Reuters. Now, of course, there's some complaints. There's a complaint by the International Justice Center, about being denied access. Some attorney and there's another advocate for human rights first, called the court restrictions a due process nightmare. And hey, and then somebody else says it is another attempt to cover up the flaws in the sham asylum process. Well, the only sham asylum process is the one where you can come from, you can cross the border illegally and then declare asylum with children that aren't your children, right? That's kind of a sham, isn't it? So here's another picture of the sort of a drone view or a helicopter view of the facility in Brownsville. It looks like a pretty neat setup, pretty efficient. So I'm sure that efficiency is their number one goal, and I'm sure they're fair about it. But again, most of these people are going to be denied asylum, and if they show video of these people being put on airplanes and taken back to their home country, that'll send a message to them, and they'll stop coming up this way. So supposedly Amnesty International has threatened to travel to South Texas next week to seek access to the tent courts, according to the New York Times. So, they're making their threats all the time. Under the Remain program, more than 40,000 migrants, mostly from Central and South America, have been told to wait for their immigration court dates in Mexico. So that's good. I mean, Mexico in that sense is cooperating. And we also sent out a story this week about how they've got a whole bunch of Africans stuck in Mexico, and it was interesting. I saw a video where one of the Africans, he was from Cameroon, which basically is a British colony, but at least they do speak English there. He didn't like Mexico because they don't speak his language. So I don't know why he's surprised. There's no guarantee you go to any other country in the world that they're going to speak your language. So, hello. Anyway, that was kind of interesting. But they're not letting these Africans go up through the country and get into this country, that's another plus for Mexico. That's good. So anyway, I'm going to take a break right now. It's about 5:30 Arizona time, and be back in about 5 minutes, and we'll continue this discussion on the on the border courts. So stay with us. See you soon. Okay, folks, we are back. And before we went to our short break, we were talking about border courts, setting up courts in tents down on the, right now in Texas, in Brownsville, but spreading across the border areas, which this is really good news. I want to emphasize that. This is great. This is something that the National Border Patrol Council has been pushing for some time. We passed on information to the National Tea Party Patriots and Jenny Beth Martin, and you know, they actually get to sit down with the president now. I want to give a shout out to the Tea Party Patriot folks and their 10th anniversary gig back in Washington, D.C. this week. They're back there right now and started, really got going today, and hopefully we'll see something maybe on their Facebook page or some other places. I'll go take a look at it, see what we can send out to everybody. But they're back there, and they're going to have a briefing tomorrow at the White House, so that'll be really exciting. I hope President Trump makes it. I didn't see if he was back in D.C. yet or not, but he was going anywhere else from California. So that would be good. Anyway, hats off to the Tea Party Patriots. Kudos to Jenny Beth Martin. She does a great job leading them, and I'm sure they'll have a good time, and I hope a lot of people got to go back to D.C. Anyway, let's get back to these border courts. So I was saying that Amnesty International, they've threatened to travel to South Texas next week to seek access to the tent courts. The Times reported that. Well, we'll see about that. And under the Remain program, this is the deal with Mexico. More than 40,000 migrants, mostly from South America, have been told to wait for their immigration court dates in Mexico. So, and then this is more about the asylum thing. On Wednesday, the Supreme Court cleared the way for an even further reaching asylum policy. The court ended all injunctions that had blocked the White House ban on asylum for anyone trying to enter the U.S. by traveling through a third country, such as Mexico, without seeking protection there. It's interesting because you had a judge, I think it was the San Francisco judge. He issued an injunction, one of the Ninth Circuit judges, and to stop this policy, and then the Ninth Circuit said, no, you can't stop it. We're going to lift that injunction, and then some other San Francisco judge said, well, I don't care what the rest of the judges said. I'm going to issue another injunction. So I don't know how that works. I mean, seriously, these people are just out of their minds, out of control. And I include the judges in that statement. So anyway, the Supreme Court slapped them down and said, well, we're lifting all the injunctions, and it's going to be in effect now as it goes. And of course, it's probably going through the courts and will end up in the Supreme Court, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, these things take forever. But anyway, again, the court ended all injunctions that had blocked the White House ban on asylum for anyone trying to enter the U.S. by traveling through a third country such as Mexico without seeking protection there. The policy targets tens of thousands of Central Americans fleeing violence and poverty who travel through Mexico each month to seek asylum in the U.S. and would affect asylum seekers from Africa, Asia, and South America who arrive regularly at the southern border. So that's pretty much the report on that, on the border courts. Again, we want to emphasize that this is really good news, and we hope that we hope that we keep making progress. Now, there is some progress on the border wall that that's going on. We know there was a report that I sent out in the Google group about progress on the border wall just this week. I might go try to look that up now and see if I can't dig it up. So if you want to stand by here for a minute, I will go check out and see if I can't get some of this information for you and read it to you in case you didn't read it in the email. Also want to talk a little bit about Baltimore, Maryland, and their sanctuary city drug problem. So let's get into this article, and it's titled "Trump Starting to Win Big on Controlling the Southern Border," and the article is, I think it was written written by Jonathan Tobin. I think it was the New York Post, but anyway, it says, to listen to most Democrats, they've got President Trump on the run when it comes to immigration. The big, beautiful wall he promised to build along the border with Mexico hasn't gone up, and House Democrats are no longer funding even the border security products they supported in the past. And then it goes on, but it says that, but anyone who believes sanctuary movement backers and Dems seeking to decriminalize illegal immigration are beating the president needs they need a reality check. On Wednesday, the Supreme Court ruled to permit the administration to go on refusing to accept applications for asylum from migrants. So, and you all heard about that. We just talked about that. That comes on the heels of the court's decision in July to allow Trump to use money from the defense budget to build the border wall. It was yet another significant victory for the administration's initiatives and a sign that the left's judicial guerrilla war had been trying to stymie the president is starting to crumble. Expect liberal efforts to prevent Trump from overturning President Barack Obama's executive orders that effectively grant amnesty to millions of illegals to meet the same fate. Talking about DACA. And that's coming soon. Fact is, despite the beating, Trump has continued to take from the media about government tactics aimed at stemming the surge of illegal immigrants over the southern border. His policies have started to show signs of success. No one expects Mexico to pay for Trump's wall. It is actually doing something more important, using its resources, its money, to stop its people from crossing over into the United States illegal. It has, for example, reinforced security at the southern border and set up checkpoints on highways leading north, dispatching 21,600 police and troops across the nation in the effort. So far in 2019, the U.S. Border Patrol has arrested more than 400,000 migrants from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras for crossing the border illegally, but only 4,300 Mexicans were caught doing so. It's all strong evidence that, far from ignoring or rejecting Trump's efforts to jawbone them into doing something to stop the flood of illegals, America's most important southern neighbor is listening to him. Recall that Mexico stepped up actions to control the migrants in a bid to avoid tariffs Trump had threatened to impose. The message has also gotten through to those seeking to come to the United States illegally. Mexican officials have said there has been a significant decrease in the number of Central Americans entering their country this year for the purpose of illegally immigrating to the United States. It makes sense. The campaign by Obama and other Democrats to grant amnesty and a wide array of benefits to illegal immigrants fueled the surge across the border, with new migrants seeking the same lenient treatment. That led to the crisis in which federal resources were overwhelmed by the sheer number of asylum seekers, prompting such much grandstanding and crocodile tears from the left. Boy, isn't that the truth. Trump critics have libelously denounced his attempts to enforce the law and restore order at the border as reminiscent of the Nazis and evidence of racism. Yet these efforts seem to be having the intended effect of those contemplating coming here without permission. And as far as the terms of racism and calling people Nazis, these people don't even understand, haven't got a clue what that means, what a Nazi means, and what racism, who they're calling a racist, because they use that term just for anything. With the courts recognizing Trump's right to use his power to protect the border, and with Mexico now cooperating with the United States, perhaps there's a chance to break the long deadlock over immigration in Washington. Of course, everyone knows America's immigration system is badly broken mainly because we don't enforce the current immigration laws. That's the only reason it's broken. But Democrats, who hope they win control of both Congress and White House next year, have prevented a compromise that would allow the so-called dreamers to stay in the country in exchange for building on the border wars. So a fix may have been wait until after the 2020 election. Again, if we enforce the law, current immigration law allows to do the things we're doing. So, what's really broken and what's really sad is we're not, these people don't want to enforce the law as it has been written by Congress. No matter who wins next year, Trump has shown that his intemperate rhetoric on the issue, notwithstanding strict enforcement policies combined with the help of both the Supreme Court and the Mexicans, can provide a way forward to fix an illegal immigration problem that has long seemed insoluble. And that was written by Jonathan Tobin. So pretty interesting stuff. We know that, we know here in Arizona, this border security thing is critical. And we need to salute these ICE agents and Border Patrol officers and all of these people, these U.S. Army personnel that are working down on the border. They're really doing what they can to get this thing under control. And this idea of having the courts run out of these tents is really a big step forward. So I hope everybody realizes that, and they give kudos to President Trump and everybody that's working on this. But again, we have people that are resisting some of these things in Trump's own administration. One of them is Acting Homeland Security Secretary McAleenan. Need to get rid of that guy, and they need to hire Tom Homan. You make him the border czar, and we're not big on czars, but you make you make him the border czar, and you'll have a whole different picture. But they're making progress, so we applaud them for that. That's what we want. We want to stop illegal immigration. We love legal immigration. You want to come in this country and do all the right things, follow the rules, go through the process, get your citizenship. That's really a wonderful thing. And I know this is Constitution Week, and the other day was Constitution Day, and I think Vice President Pence swore in 28 people at the White House as new citizens, and we applaud that. That's really a great thing. We don't care where they're from. If they want to be Americans, and you can do it that way, that's okay. But coming across the border illegally and hiding and taking jobs from Americans, that's not good. We also don't like right now the House and the Senate working on this green card expansion thing that's going on. We're having a lot of people tell us that that's not a good thing, although some people think it is. Some of the senators think it is. I've even heard, I think it was Rand Paul or Mike Lee talking about it, thought it was a good thing. So I'm not sure. The Chamber, the Business Roundtable, all those people are pushing this thing, and I don't know. We'll look into that and talk about that sometime. Maybe we can get somebody on that knows a little bit more about that. We don't think they need to raise the number of green card folks. We got a lot of Americans in this country that need jobs, and the job situation is just so great right now. It's really a beautiful thing to see, and the economy is too. And no matter what these Dems are hoping for, can you imagine? You thought you'd ever see a political party in the United States of America that would hope for a bad economy? I mean, seriously, these people are, they've gone off the deep end. Anyway, but there's still Americans that need jobs and are looking for jobs, and if they're switching jobs or whatever, good for them. If you want to go from one job to another and there's jobs available, that's a good thing. So let's let them take them and fill them. And we certainly need a lot of engineers, and I don't know if we can fill all the spots or not. But no finer profession in the world, in my opinion. And I was an engineer, so I'm speaking from experience. Couldn't be more exciting, couldn't be more pressure, couldn't be more wonderful things that you can accomplish and be proud of. And engineering is really a high, well-paid profession. And we got a great company here in our local area in Raytheon Missile Systems. We're just a small part of Raytheon, but it is a big operation with several thousand engineers, and they are very, very smart people. And when the DoD comes to them with a problem of any kind, they're ready to solve it technically. So, and they're doing it. They did it when I was there with the missile defense system and what we called SM-3 for the Navy, and they're doing it now with a lot of other, and they also make offensive weapons and a lot of defensive weapons. So, they know what they're doing. Very successful, very big. And we're really proud of them. And I was proud to work for them, I can tell you. It was the greatest company I ever worked for, and I worked in the aerospace industry for 30 years. So enough of Don Woolley. So we, again, I want to tell you, next week we have Dr. Laura Presley on with us, and she's going to be on with us at 11 o'clock Arizona time. So hopefully you have your morning chores done. You'll be able to tune in and listen to the live stream. If you don't catch it, you can listen to it that night. It'll be on the record then, permanently recorded. So, and she's a really great person, very smart. She had 4 patents in the semiconductor industry. She's a physicist and a chemist, and she got involved with elections after she retired, and so she's really into preventing election fraud in the state of Texas. So right now, she was telling me they're fighting a bond election in the city of Houston. Now, we thought we had a big bond here in Pima County, which was almost $900 million. That was defeated, by the way. Good job by us and a lot of other folks. We thank everyone for contributing to that. But they were trying to pass a bond in the Houston area of $1.5 billion, and so they called them on that election. They don't believe that it actually passed. They want a new election. There were a lot of problems in Harris County, one of the largest counties in the country, and they're getting all the records, going through all the data, taking them to court. So, and Dr. Laura Presley is leading that fight. So kudos to her. But she's going to be here next week, so you'll want to listen to her. And we're going to cover that same ground that we did last time, but hopefully with her internet, the audio will be better, so that'll be great. So anyway, the week after that, the 25th, we're actually trying to get Gabby Mercer to join us, so if we can set up the right time, we'll let you know about that next week. For now, this is Don Woolley signing off, and thanks for joining us tonight. We will see you next week, or maybe down the road this week. I think the Republican Roundup is Saturday night, so we'll see some of you folks there, and come and say hi and tell us if you're watching the show or not. So anyway, take care, everybody. God bless you all, and we'll see you next week.